everyone. I'm Miss T. Today we're going to be doing a grammar lesson. Last week, we looked at an overview of all the simple tenses in English. So you learned a little bit about the present simple, past simple, and future simple, just a little bit. But with each tense, there is a lot more to know in detail. So this is a lesson to tell you about the simple present tense in detail, all the situations that we use it for, and all the different kinds of sentence structures we use it for. So stay tuned if you want to learn more about the simple present tense in English. So for the simple present tense, this is a very common tense in English. It is used to talk about general truths or facts, regular actions, habits, or routines, and things that are permanent. So something that is in a stable condition and doesn't change or won't change in the near future. So we're going to look at different structures. Now, this is one of the structures that the present simple tense follows. So we have SVO structure. S is the subject, V is the main verb, O is the object. So like we discussed in our last video a little bit, all of the verbs stay in the base form. This is also called the V1 form, except for the verb that comes after the third person singular subject pronoun, like he, she, or it. So this does change the form of the word a little bit, the verb. So let's have a look at some of the sentences on our right. We have, I speak Spanish. Speak is the verb, stays in its base form. We don't change it. He drinks coffee. Now, this one is in third person singular because the pronoun is a third person singular pronoun. So on the verb, we have drink. We're going to add an S on that. We watch movies. So for this one, we have we, this is plural. So because it's plural, the verb watch doesn't need to change at all. She plays the guitar. So for this, we add an S on plays. Why? Because this is third person singular. We know because of the pronoun she. Now, I'm going to explain the structure just a little bit more. S, whenever you see a structure breakdown and it's only S, S means subject. The subject is the person or thing doing the action. V is verb. The verb is the action. So this is any action word. Walk, teach, swim, cook, run. These are all action words. O is for object. The object is the person or thing the action is being done to. So when we talk about SVO structure, this is what it means. S, subject, V, verb, O, object. Now, the form of the verbs. Every verb has a base form. This is also known as the root form. The base form of the verb is the form it takes when it hasn't been changed in any way. This is usually the form of the word that we see in the dictionary. When you study English, this form is often called V1. The form of the verbs for third person singular. So this is what we were talking about before. When the subject is third person singular, we change the verb form by adding S to the end. And again, third person singular, what is it? Third person singular uses the subjects or subject pronouns, he, she, it. So it could be he, she, it, or a singular noun. So you can say the dog, that's one dog. The teacher, one teacher. Mr. Smith, it's one person. The table, it's one table. So in all of these cases, this is how we can use this rule here. Now, let's talk a little bit more because rules, there are so many in English. It would be nice if we can add S on every verb, but that's just not always the case. So, most verbs, yes, we can only add S on the end. However, there are exceptions. When the base form of the verb ends in SS, CH, or O, then we must add ES. Not only S, but now ES now. And this is when the third person singular rule is applied. So this is quite important. I've been an English teacher for almost 10 years, and this is where I see almost all of the spelling mistakes. Not remembering, okay, do we put 3 S's in a row? Do we leave it if there's already 2 S's? No, we have to do ES when the word ends in any of these letters or combination of letters. So let's look at some examples. Example 1, she always passes me in the hallway. Let's look at our base form of the word, it's pass. Now, because it's third person singular, we have to add an S on the end. But because we already have 2 S's here, then if we add a third S, oh no, that's wrong. We actually have to do ES because we have this combination. Let's look at this one. The instructor teaches math. So for this one, teach is the root word. However, because we have the combination CH, we can't just put an S. We have to put ES, teaches. And this is helpful for spelling, so you spell it correctly, but also for pronunciation. Passes, teaches. For this, we often, because it has such a pronounced ending, we pronounce it in 2 syllables when it's like this, if the first part of the word is only 1 syllable. This ES usually gets an extra syllable added to it when we pronounce things. Let's look here. She goes to university. Goes. So here, the root word is go. We end in O. So we have ES. ES. She goes to university. Now, even though this rule is kind of tricky because you have to memorize it, this is one of what we call a high frequency verb, which means that we use this verb a lot in a lot of what we say and a lot of what we write, we use it. So usually, even if we don't know this rule, most people just spell this correctly because you've seen this before. You already know this. So this will help you remember why. So we're going to look at now this structure. The present simple tense can follow this structure. So before we had SVO, now even though be is a verb, it's not a main verb. It's what we call an auxiliary verb. This is why I made it orange, because it's a little bit different. So subject, auxiliary verb, we don't have O anymore. Now we have adjective. This is a describing word. So verb, action word, adjective, describing word. And here we have, like I said, the auxiliary verb. Now, if you're not too sure about what the auxiliary verb is, have a look at this. Auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. Sometimes they support the main verbs and they provide information about the tense. So, depending on what form this takes, because be takes way different forms. It's an irregular word, so it takes many forms, and whatever it takes, it tells us what tense we are in. So let's look at down here. The form of be we use in the simple present tense depends on the subject. So here we have the singular subject is here. Say, for example, he. We're going to use is. And then an adjective is a describing word. So we can say nice. He is nice. So whenever we have a singular subject, we're going to use is in here. However, it's different. When it's plural, we're going to use are. So we can say they are. Then we can say pretty, beautiful, whatever. That's our adjective. They are pretty. Now, because this is plural, we're going to use are. Now, it doesn't matter whether you use pronouns or actual nouns, just as long as you follow the rule. So say, for example, you don't have the pronoun they. Say, for example, you want an actual noun and say, the girls. Now, the important part here is it is plural, so we have the S. The girls are pretty. That's fine. Now, like before, if we changed it and it's singular, then what is this? This changes to is. The girl is pretty. So this will always tell us how many people we're talking about, whether it's plural or singular. What is the special case is I. And I'm sure you actually already know this because this is like the first thing that a lot of English speakers learn. Subject is I. Our form of be is am. I am pretty, for example. So for I, we use am. This is kind of a special case because there's no other pronoun that uses am. It's only I. But this one we know it stays in our brain because when we talk in English to someone, we usually say I am and so on. So it's good to remember. Let's look at some of these examples over here. So we see our special case, I am happy. He, singular, is kind. We are excited. So here we have are because we is plural. Excited is an adjective because we're following this form up here. Subject, form of be plus adjective. So excited is an adjective. Even though it ends in ed, it's an adjective. She is beautiful. The form of be and our adjective, we use is because she is singular. They are tall. They is plural. So we use are and then our adjective is tall. Right? Now, it's good to not only remember these rules, but if you're looking at a sentence, it's good to be able to label the different parts of a sentence. So if you're able to look at a sentence and tell yourself, okay, this is the subject. This is the form of be. This is also an auxiliary verb. This is an adjective. It's really good to help you break down because you'll need to know these basics if you want to learn more complex vocabulary, because it always comes down to this in one way or another. Here's another structure. We have the present simple tense that can follow this structure as well. So again, we have subject, then we have the form of be, our auxiliary verb, and then a noun that follows. So, for example, we can have she, singular, we're going to say is. Then we have a noun. So we can say a noun that resembles a profession, like a job, or a type of person. So you can say child, student, senior, something like that. You can say immigrant, newcomer, anything like that. So we can say she is. Now here's a mistake that I always see. Say we want to do newcomer. Like this. Well, she is newcomer. That's not perfect. In English, we have these very tricky things called articles. What you need to focus on for this lesson is the article a or an. We're going to use a here because we have a consonant start here. She is a newcomer, like this, because it's singular, right? She, singular, is, we use our form for singular. So we need to say a newcomer because this a really just means one, which helps us have the consistency throughout. If it's plural, then we're going to add an S on the noun. We'll see that in one of our examples over here. So let's look at our examples. I am a teacher. A, because you are one person, you use I, so you're going to use am. Just one person, so a teacher. One teacher, teacher's the noun. He is a doctor. One person. We used our singular form because it's one, it's singular. A means one. Doctor is the noun. We are students. Okay, so now it's not singular anymore. We is two or more. We have no idea how many because it doesn't say, but we know for sure it's 2 plus, 2 or more. So because we're using plural, this is plural, this form is plural too, like we talked about. Now, do we use a or an? No, because it's plural. A or an means one. So we're not going to say that. We are student is the noun, but we have to make it plural because we're talking about plural people, right? So we're adding an S on the end. She is an adult. Okay, now in this case, we're using an because we're starting with a vowel sound. Adult. It's vowel, so we use an for vowels. I'll make another video more about articles because they're very tricky. But for now, what you need to know is when the noun starts with a vowel, use an. And that also just means one. In English, it helps with our pronunciation. It sounds smoother when you say an adult, like that, not adult. That sounds too choppy. We don't like it in English, so we do an. They are children. They is plural, could be 2 plus. So that's why we use are because it's plural. And children, we don't say child. Children is actually irregular noun. So it follows a different form. When there's plural, it takes a different form. So for one child, we say child, but for many, we say children. There's other similar ones that we use really often. Another example of an irregular noun would be person is one, changes to people for many. So that's another example. So these are the structures that are most common with the present simple tense. And so it's good to know because even if you're only using the present simple tense to talk, if you're able to use different structures for the same tense, that's really good. And you should keep practicing that. So we're going to talk about the cases in which we use all of these. So the first case is general facts or truths. So what does that mean? It's when we're talking about something that is true. Widely accepted information, something that is the same consistently. Some examples. Fire is hot. The sun rises in the morning. The sky is blue. I am a woman. Dogs have 4 legs. So in all these cases, we might see slightly different structures from what we learned about, but it's all the same tense. So even though we've learned 3 different structures, all these structures are in the same tense. Simple present tense, we use it for facts. All of these things, all 5 of these things are facts. So that's why we're using the present simple tense. So for example, we have subject, the form of be, an adjective. Fire is hot. The sun rises in the morning. This one is kind of more complicated because there's more words. The sun is the subject. Rises is your main verb. And in the morning, this is actually preposition and article, and then morning can be noun sometimes. So that one's a little bit more tricky. The sky is blue. It's our subject. Is our form of be. Blue is our adjective. I am a woman. I is the subject. Am is the form of be. And a woman, this is the noun. Dogs have 4 legs. Dogs is a subject and have is our main verb. Now, for this one, because we have a main verb here, this can be a noun. Whatever something owns can be there. I have a car, for example. That's fine too. Now, this is another case where we use the simple present tense. So we're talking about habitual actions, in other words, routines. So something that is done regularly or repeatedly, every day or every week. Something that follows a schedule. We often also use time words or adverbs of frequency to give more information about when or how often an action happens. So if you're wondering about adverbs of frequency, go ahead and check the grammar video that comes out next Tuesday. And there'll be a video on adverbs of frequency for that. So I'll just go through some examples here. So we have he plays soccer on Fridays. So he is our subject. Plays is our verb. It's our main verb. So that's why we're adding the S on here, because we're using he. It follows that rule, third person singular. Soccer is the object of the sentence, is the thing that's being done to. And then here's our time word on Fridays. So this time word tells us more information. And we say on Fridays with an S because it's every Friday. It's all Fridays. So that's why we have an S on it. It's not a typo. She goes to work every day. She is our subject. Our verb goes. Now, not only do we have the S because it's third person singular, but the root word is go. So we have to actually add the ES from the rule that we looked about earlier in the video. To work every day. Now, this is our time word to tell us, well, when does she go to work? The bus comes at 9 o'clock. The bus is our subject. Comes. Singular, right? So we have third person singular, S. 9 o'clock. This is our time word. I drink tea every morning. I is the subject. Drink, we don't have to add an S on that because even though I is one person, it does not follow the third person singular rule. It's first person. Tea is the object. Every morning is our time word. We eat squash in the fall. We is our subject. Plural, eat, is our main verb. It stays in the base form. Squash is the object of the sentence. In the fall, that's our time word. So we often use time words here to tell us when or how often we're doing the action. Now here's the last case that we'll look at today. We also use the present simple tense when we're talking about permanent situations. So something that will not likely change in the future, something that is long lasting, and it is used to describe a stable condition or state. Some examples. She works as a nurse. So, she is the subject, works. Now, when we're talking about a profession and we're using the main verb, here, rather than the form of be, we have to say as a, and then the name of the profession. So you do this when we have the main verb here. Now, before, if you use is, you don't need the word as. She is a nurse. I'll write that down here because that gets confusing sometimes. So it depends on the form that you want to do. If you want to use the main verb, works, that's fine, but you have to say as a nurse. Now, if you don't want to use the main verb, you want to use the form of be, she is a nurse. That's fine. These both mean the same thing. So it's whatever you prefer. They live in Tokyo. Again, our subject, they're plural, so we are going to keep it in the base form of the verb. And here is the more information here. The company operates in America. The company, the subject, operates is in the simple present form. The company is singular, so we're adding an S on this. It's a singular noun, so we put an S on the verb. I have 2 children. So here I have, this is the best form to put with I, and 2 children. She does medical research. This is another case of the rule for the third person singular. She, the root word is do, so we have to put an S on it. But because it ends in O, we put ES and then medical research. So these are all the cases that we use the simple present tense and the different structures that we use when we're talking in simple present tense or writing in simple present tense. Now here's a little bit of a summary. So the simple present tense is used to talk about regular actions like routines, general facts or truths, and permanent situations. Regular here doesn't mean average. It means regular means like happening often, many times, again and again. Repeated actions and regular actions. Structures that we looked at today: subject plus the main verb in the base form or V1 form, plus the object of the sentence. Subject plus the form of be plus adjective. Subject plus the form of be plus a, an, or the plus a noun. And when you're using the form of be, you have to think, is the subject singular or is it plural? Singular, you use is. Plural, you use are. Now, it's time for a little quiz. Think about what is each sentence describing? What is each sentence describing? Let's look at each example sentence and identify what it is describing. Here's the first one. I live in Toronto. So what does this sentence describe? A routine, B, a permanent situation, or C, a habit? What do we think? Let's check. All right, so a permanent situation. I live in Toronto. Permanent situation, not likely going to change in the future. It's a stable condition. So we're going to say it's a permanent situation. So that's why we use it here. Here's another example sentence. I eat turkey on Christmas every year. So what does this sentence describe? A routine, a permanent situation, or a fact? What do we think? Permanent situation, a fact, a routine. Every year. We do have a time word here. Every year. Where do we usually use time words? Let's check. It's a routine. Happens even though it's once a year, it's every year. So it's a routine, it's regular. So this is the best one to have. All right. Now this one, the sun is hot. What does this sentence describe? A routine, permanent situation, or a fact? The sun is hot. Hmm. Let's see. It's a fact. It is widely accepted information. Everybody knows it. The sun is hot. When you stand under the sun on a warm summer day, you will be hot. You will feel hot. So it is a fact. It's a truth. So how did you do? Did you get 3 out of 3? Did you get all the questions right? I hope so. Other than that, we're all finished for today. Thank you so much for watching. There will be more grammar videos coming, so stay tuned. And I hope you keep on practicing your English and keep on trying your best. Take care. Bye.